Hey guys, my name is Haley and I'm going to be filming a little bit of a different video from what I usually film. I am generally a booktube channel. I do vlogs like here and there that are not necessarily all books, but primarily I'm a book channel. So if you enjoy books, please stick around, go subscribe, go follow the Bookstagram, do all of that. But today I am going to be talking about my experience at seeing Cinderella's Castle, which is the new Starkid'S show that I just flew to LA to go see with my partner, and I wanted to have a place to keep all of my own memories personally, but also to share with other people who have never been to a live Starkid'S show or just want to talk about it or need a space to talk about spoilers, which I won't be doing until the end of the vlog. I will warn you when I get into any spoilers, and believe me, you will not be spoiled if that is not what you want to be spoiled before the digital ticket comes out or before it eventually comes out on YouTube. But there will be a whole warning before that and we'll talk about it then. But I wanted to record just my general thoughts, some of the experiences I had, and that's what we're going to do here today. First off, some background information on me and Starkid. I have been a fan of them since a couple months after Harry Potter musical came out, so we're going up on like 15 years of experience and like watching all of their shows and enjoying them, and them being a big, like, me being huge fans of theirs. So we're coming from that distinction and that perspective for this show. I did see them at Apocalypse Tour in Ann Arbor like 10 years ago. It was like right after I graduated high school, and I had the time of my life then. I met a couple of them on the streets of Ann Arbor. I met Dylan Saunders, and then I also went to Joe Moses's One Man Shows This, which were things that he used to do. As far as I know, he hasn't done them in a while, but he is Snape from the Potter musicals, if you're familiar with those. And I went to his show. I met him. I met Joe Walker. I met Tessa. I met Richard, who plays Neville in the Potter musicals. So, like, I am very, very big fans of theirs. I have been to as many events of theirs as I could swing, but I have never been able to make it to a musical, like a live stage show of theirs. And I should have tried harder when they were in Chicago, which is a lot closer to me than LA, where they've been based for several years now. But I'm from Ohio. Getting out to LA is kind of expensive, so I am internally grateful that I was at a place in my life where I could afford to actually finally go see one of their stage shows in person, which has been a goal of mine for 15 years now. So I am so grateful to have had the chance to do that. And I just want to talk about it a little bit more, talk a little bit about the Kickstarter, talk about my experience while I was there, and get on into all of that. Also, I apologize if my thoughts are all over the place. I have been trying to organize my thoughts. I just got home from LA like a day and a half ago. I'm still trying to organize all my thoughts. A lot of the spoilers I even talk about aren't going to be that spoilery because I have to like collect my brain and like study the show again when I get the digital ticket that I will probably buy multiple times, which should be out within a week by the time this video comes up, but don't hold me to that because I still have to edit it. As someone who got back into Starkid during the pandemic, which is when I watched all of their Hatchetfield stuff, because it had been a few years since I had caught up on all their shows, because they do tend to do at least one big show a year, sometimes two, like they have done this year. But I got back into them during the pandemic. Black Friday very, very quickly became my like comfort show that I've seen 1,000,001 times. I love the music from that show. I love the entire cast. It is a show that I will always go back and rewatch if I'm having like a bad week or anything like that. Is also how I've gotten a lot of friends into Starkid. I got my partner into them by showing him the Hatchetfield stuff and explaining all of that. I also was present for all of the Nightmare times when they were being filmed live, and like you had to buy online tickets to that during the pandemic. So Hatchetfield in general is very, very special to me, but I also love a lot of their older shows. I obviously love the Potter musicals, which is how me and 90% of other people found them. I'm a big fan of Starship, which is why I was so excited that they were doing puppets for this show, because they haven't done puppets in a while. Holy Musical Batman was like my favorite of their shows for the longest time before the Hatchetfield musicals came out, so that has always held a very close, like, special spot in my heart. But all of that said, I was so beyond excited to be able to swing not only actually contributing to the Kickstarter, which I did also do for Nerdy Prudes and watch like the digital ticket of that. But to be able to contribute to the Kickstarter and be able to have the time and the money and all of the things that go into it to actually fly out to LA this time. I had the, like, what was it called? the pre-sale for the tickets, which is how I got the tickets that I did. I was tier 1. And I personally was stressed about the tier situation because I've never been to a theater show that did tiers that way. That is not normally how theater shows in my experience do it. And as someone who also used to do theater and wants desperately to get back into it and is planning and hoping and praying to get to do that in the fall, because there are shows that I actually want to do at my old theater here in the fall. But as someone who comes from a theater background, Starkid has always been one of those things where they are such big pioneers in being able to make theater accessible to people who cannot fly across the country or like cannot make it to Broadway for the insane prices that some of the shows have, or to stay in New York, or whatever is the reason that is keeping you from going to see shows in person. And I know that is a huge conversation within the theater community of like making theater more accessible for people who cannot swing those type of things, and that arts are important for everyone to see whether or not they can afford to go to Broadway to see a show. So the fact that Starkid has always made their stuff very, very accessible, of doing like 2 or 3 weekends of a live show, and then they've been doing the digital ticket for several years now, of being able to watch it either during the run or right after the run, like they're doing this time with Cinderella'S Castle. And then within the year or so, and they've gotten faster with it as they've had more experience with it in the last couple of years, of getting that same thing up on YouTube for anyone to be able to watch for free, which is an incredible feat for theater and for any company, because a lot of people are worried that if you put theater up online, people won't go see it in person. And I quite frankly think it's very much the opposite. I feel like this show proved that to me. We had all the demos. If you watched all of the Kickstarter lives and live streams and all of the fundraising for this show, we knew most of the music. Like, we had all of the demos. I personally sat and listened to them on loop while I was making all of the bracelets for a show, which I will get into those later. But it did not detract from the show at all for me to be able to know the music. It honestly almost made it a little bit more similar to a concert, of like, this is a band that I really, really love, and I got to go see in person. Because I do, like, Starkid are an interesting, like, realm of a band, but also a theater company in a way that I've not seen done anywhere else, personally. Especially since they have done concerts, like Apocalypse Tour or the Space Tour that they did before that. Or they just did Starkid in it, like, a month or 2 ago. So all of those things make them such a special place for the arts. I think online, for people to be able to find their stuff. And I think that is a very, very special thing. And I think we should be beyond grateful that it exists and that they do what they do, so that more people can see their talents and see Matt and Nick's writing and be able to hear their stories in such an accessible way, where you don't have to like put it up on, like, you don't have to have a subscription service. Like, it's not even on like YouTube Premium like a lot of people try to do stuff. They always make sure that it is free and accessible for everyone, which I think is an incredible thing to do. But sorry, I will step off my soapbox about Starkid making theater accessible and actually talk about the show. So, also, with the bracelets, I know a lot of people asked me this because they were like, oh, you're giving out freebies, and I didn't realize how strange it was of a thing for people before, like, Taylor Swift obviously made the friendship bracelets thing a big thing. I personally, like, knew of it from rave culture, that you would make, they were called candy, spelled with a K, and you would exchange them at, like, raves, which I personally was not a part of, but I had a lot of friends who were, like, back in the early 2000s. And then I started making them for K-pop concerts, which is another place that it also became very, very popular before Taylor Swift also has done it and made it more accessible for a lot more people just simply because of how big she is as an artist. So if people want to call them friendship bracelets, if people want to call them candy, if people just want to call them freebies for K-pop concerts, I personally have made them for years for K-pop concerts and as freebies, and I like that it is a community aspect to be able to talk to fans before the show. It's like a good opener to start conversation, especially if there's a lot of like introverted people in the crowd. I had so many people come up to me and be shocked that I wasn't selling them and that I was just like handing them out for free, and I had to explain like most of the ones that I made were for like they were just the characters from the show. They were a lot of like fun beads that I had. I was wearing a set that were the songs from the show because I didn't have enough of these beads to be able to hand out. Like I made over 100, 150, somewhere in there, freebies that also included a pack of them that I gave to Matt Lang's fiance, Rusty, who I had chatted with a few times online, and like made sure that she could get them to the cast, and she did reassure me that a lot of the cast got it and a lot of them have thanked me for it. If you follow Josh Flory, if you're like a really big Starkid'S fan, he is one of the band members, and he made like a whole reel about it being the Cinderella'S tour, was his whole joke and getting everybody's reaction to it, which I thought was funny. But he did also use my bracelets, which I thought was really cool, because I'm just glad, for one, that all of them got them, and for two, to like been able to share that thing with not only the fans before and during like and after the show, but also with the casts themselves. That's a really cool thing for me as somebody who has been a fan of them for so many years. But I talked to people who are from all walks of life, some that were like a lot younger than me. Like I know a lot of people got into Starkid through Hatchetfield because it was coming out during the pandemic, who are a lot younger, like within the 18 to like early 20s range. I am an older Starkid'S fan. I am 31. So I have been a fan of theirs for a while longer, but it was so interesting seeing people come from like different walks of, like, I always ask people what their first Starkid show or what their favorite Starkid show is, and I got such different responses to, which I thought was fascinating. I even met a person who like had never heard of them, besides they like found VHS Christmas Carol a couple months ago, which I've never met anybody who got into them through that show, but they were like found out that they were like based in LA, and then found out that they were doing a show at the El Portal like within a couple weeks, and they were like, oh my god, that's so exciting, I'm gonna try to get tickets, and they got tickets. And it was just one of the most interesting stories of like hearing people's different walks of how they found Starkid, because me, coming from the time period that I found them, I'm used to people having, like, I always introduce them as like, oh, they're the people who did the Potter musicals, like the Harry Potter parodies, and they're like, oh yeah, I know them. So hearing people that got into them with like Guy Who Didn't Like Musicals or Black Friday or Nerdy Prudes even is so interesting to me, and seeing how much the fandom has grown, and also seeing a lot of people who are theater performers themselves, or people who just like to watch musicals, or people who like the fandom aspect of Starkid and how involved they are in their fandom and how transparent they are, which is a thing we learned that I didn't even know during this campaign for Cinderella'S Castle on Kickstarter. Nick laid out like their full budget for Nerdy Prudes and how they use all of their money, which is such a huge transparency thing that I feel like more companies should do. That they like flat out said how much they pay their actors, how much goes towards costumes, how much goes towards lighting, how much goes towards the actual theater, and all of the above, which I think is so reassuring as a fan to see where the money that I am putting into it is going, and something that more people should do, personally, in my opinion. It was so fun meeting so many people from different walks of life. Hold on, I even have some extra freebies, hold on. And I just sat out front. I was in tier 1, so I got there very, very early, right after the VIP people in line, and was like, just laid out a bunch of my, if you're on Twitter, especially Starkid Twitter, you probably saw me, because like a lot of my posts about these freebies went viral, or about my spoiler reviews, which I'm going to talk about later, went viral because I have been so active on Starkid Twitter, and anytime that they're actually doing something actively, my tweets tend to get a lot of attention because I talk about them. But I do in fact have leftovers of the freebies. I'm trying to figure out a way to do a giveaway, or like have people pay for shipping or something with these, because obviously I made them for the show and I want more fans to be able to get them than just the people that were there on the 19th, which was the Friday that I saw the show myself. But Still trying to figure that one out. I also have more bracelets that I want to make. I want to make more of the song bracelets. I did end up giving some of mine to Rusty. I traded bracelets with her. She got me a Nerdy Birds Must Die one, which I thought was really cute, and she took one of my song ones, which was Last Forever. And I ended up giving, I had it for all of the songs that we knew beforehand, and I had one for Neon, which is James's song as the prince, and I asked him on Twitter, I was like, do you want like a Prince one, or would you rather have the Neon one? And I sent him a picture and he replied. Like, they've been very, very active on Twitter and on the internet as well, which I always love coming from artists as somebody who's a big fan of them, especially. It's always fun to get an interaction from one of your faves on the internet. It just is. So I was excited that like James got both of his bracelets, and Kim even commented that she got her bracelets, and like that they are being so welcoming and inclusive for their fans on their days off. Like, they just did 4 shows in a row and they finally had some days off, and all of them immediately jumped on the internet, which I think is just so helpful for community building. And I've been talking for 20 minutes and it's just me raving about how much I love Starkid, which is kind of the point of this, so I'm okay with it. Also, just a complete side note, because I feel like most of the world knew about this, the whole like CrowdStrike thing happened literally the second I landed in LA. We got stuck on the tarmac, like on the plane, for an hour, and they really couldn't tell us why, and the reasons they were making didn't make any sense, so we were like, what is going on? And then we found out the next morning when we woke up in our hotel that we had just gotten in just in time, because all of that was starting to happen as we flew in. So I'm so glad that we chose to fly in the night before. And there was a moment that we weren't sure that we were going to be able to fly home Saturday morning when we were supposed to either. So we had a lot of people who like couldn't make it to the show that night or the next day, the Saturday, because their flights were canceled because of all of the stuff going on. And I was thankful enough that all of our stuff got resolved by the time we were ready to leave Saturday morning. But like, we were fully preparing to stay there for another night, like pay for another night of the hotel, and then try to get like rush tickets or something for the Saturday shows, which did not end up happening, which is both a good and a bad thing in my opinion, because I would have loved to see the show again, but also dealing with airports and stuff and like delays and cancellations is never fun, so I didn't really want to do that either. So I think it all worked out for the best. But I do think we got very lucky in that situation, personally. That was my big experience. I did not run into any of them on the street. The only person that I really met was Rusty, and like I did say hi to Matt because he was also running the merch booth with her. But even though this was a different experience from when I saw Apocalypse Tour, in which I did meet several of them, I was literally second row to see like these people that I have wanted to see for so long. And to be that close to them, and to be able to see the talents that I have watched on a screen for so long, especially the newer people, like people who joined the company after Apocalypse Tour or didn't go to Apocalypse Tour, I thought it was a dream come true for a lot, to be able to see a lot of those people, to see their talent, to see the results of all of the crowdfunding that we all contributed to, or most of us, a lot of us contributed to, knowing that Starkid is just a cause that we want to support. And yeah, being able to see my view. Sorry, I keep forgetting that I did take pictures even though I didn't vlog. I did fully intend to vlog this, and it didn't happen because I was too overwhelmed by everything. This was my view. This was me with the program. Me in the theater. This was me and my partner in our outfits. And I took a bunch of pictures of all the bracelets. I'll put up like the little package that I made for the cast, which they got. And then I will just briefly show you some of the bracelets that I made. These ones got a lot of compliments from people, as well as a lot of my freebie ones. But I was like, I wish I had made more of the song bracelets, because they were my personal favorite, and I probably will make more. And find a way to like do giveaways or have people pay for shipping or whatever to make it more able for me to do it personally on like Twitter. So if you want to follow my Twitter, I will put my Twitter down below. It's the same as like a lot of my stuff. It's just my name. It's Haley_Hobson. So if you want to keep up with that and you don't already follow me on the Starkid corner of Twitter, that's where a lot of my Twitter takes place. that is me stepping off my soapbox and talking a little bit about my experience. I am going to get into spoilers. I'll put up a spoiler tag. If you want to skip to the end in case I have something else to say after the spoilers, I will leave a spoiler thing up here for as long as I can, or I will put down in the comments or the doobly-doo or like just on the screen of where to skip to right here if you don't want to do any spoilers for the show before the digital ticket or it comes out on YouTube. But I am going to get into spoilers. None of them are like extremely spoilery, but I did have a lot of comments, both from a theater lover perspective and also just a fangirl of a lot of these cast members' perspectives. So I'm going to jump into those now. Again, none of these are coherent or in order or all of my thoughts. This is literally just what I typed out during intermission and then on the plane ride home. This is all I have right now. If I do have any more, I will add it to my spoilery tag on Twitter, so you can find me there. My number one that surprised me the most personally was James. James as a prince. We knew this prince was going to be vulgar. We knew he was not going to be a good dude. But the way that they ended up writing him was such a surprise to me because I was in tears. I was laughing so hard at James's character. I felt like it was so well done from both Nick and Matt's perspective of writing this character, but also James's delivery of their lines. Like, he could have been, like, he was super vulgar, but he could have been so vulgar that I no longer would find it funny because it would be like man dude bro humor, which I am not always a fan of, to where it goes too far into that territory that it's no longer funny to me. But it was the perfect balance of vulgar but still hilarious to literally everyone. Like, it wasn't just dude bro humor of like making comments. They made it like the perfect level. I've been trying to explain this multiple times and I still don't know how to make it make sense. But it was the correct balance of vulgarity but also still absolutely hilarious. Like, I was literally in tears laughing every single time James was on stage. Like, every time. Especially with Thaddeus, which Kurt was playing, of his just like deadpan, I do not find you funny, sir, but okay. It was perfect. Their entire dynamic was perfect and I loved it. I also rewind to the beginning. It didn't truly hit me that I was seeing them until Jeff walked out on stage and sang "There's a castle on a hill" as the story goes, which is the line that we've heard 700 million times if you kept up with the Kickstarter or any of the teasers, because it's in all of them. And seeing Jeff come out in his eyeliner and floofy hair singing "Castle on a Hill" was like a big moment for me. Also, as someone who's a big fan of Jeff and his acting and everything that he does and his songwriting, he wrote all the songs for the show. Seeing him in particular come out and sing "Castle on a Hill," which has been ingrained in our brains as a little earworm for several months now, was truly a big moment for me personally. Another big comment I had was the transition from "Last Forever," which is of Ella and her friends, into "Facade." The juxtaposition from a theatrical perspective to have Ella and her friends and having Mariah and Lauren play those two characters, to go straight into another scene of Mariah and Laura playing different characters but the same people with the same faces, which will make sense when you see the show. I'm trying not to spoil too much. To go from like happy-go-lucky to like murder. And then having these actors show their range that quickly to be able to play two different characters was just such a cool thing for me to see live, because it's something I know Starkid is good at. They've definitely had many shows where multiple people are playing multiple different characters and they do a really good job of diversifying the acting so it never feels like the same people. To see that live was really cool for me. I also am just a really big fan of the song "Facade," and it has been stuck in my head since I left. Another thing that really surprised me that I don't think I ever would have even considered was Thaddeus and Ella. That whole storyline, did not see coming. It was a big shock to me. Had no idea that was going to happen, but the way it happened was perfect. The way it worked, the banter was so good, and I was so impressed. And then my night was one of the things that we did on Friday night was James is wearing a bunch of rings as the prince. and he literally pointed so hard that one of his rings flew off his finger because he was sweating so much and like hit the ground in the wings, and you like heard it like fall off stage. That personally for me was super funny because we didn't realize what it was in the show until James tweeted about it later, just that we heard somebody drop something. But that is just a theater like fun little mess up that I enjoy as a theater kid myself. I love seeing the little mess ups. They are always the most memorable parts of shows because you do the show so many times that anything that goes not according to plan usually sticks in your brain. And then comment as vague as possible. The dress for Neon and the Prince's Ball. The audience gasped. I gasped. I couldn't take my eyes off. It was perfect. And that's all I'm going to say about that. And then I'm going to read verbatim my notes for Ash to Ash. My notes say, Kim, in all caps with exclamation points. Ash to Ash. Destroyed me. What are words? Holy shit. And that about sums up my feelings for that entire scene. I swear I made eye contact with Matt Dahan, who is the keyboardist, multiple times during that scene, because I was quite frankly in the second row, like bouncing in my seat, sitting like this, and just staring at Kim, because she blew it out of the water. And that has been one of my favorite songs from the demos. I kept saying beforehand that I was like, I think this is going to be the song that really, really gets me. I think this one's going to impress me. And I was in fact correct. And I cannot wait for the digital ticket of that scene in particular, because I know there were so many like lore drops in there for the world of like the lands that are, and I couldn't even keep all of them in my brain because I was so starstruck and blown away by Kim's stage presence, and that song and everything about that scene was incredible. Here is the picture that my boyfriend snapped of me right after the lights came up on Act 1, right after Ash to Ash, and I feel like my eyes say it all. I was blown away. And then I literally have like 3 other comments because I was trying not to spoil Act 2 like at all. And my other comment is, Crumb was so goddamn cute. Crumb is the mouse. It's one of Joey's characters in the show, and it is the cutest puppet you've ever seen in your entire life. And the voice Joey does for Crumb, adorable. I also was a big fan. Somebody pointed out with Sir Hop-a-Lot, and I don't know if this is true, but I feel like it might be because I thought he looked a little fluffy by the end of the show, was that John as Sir Hop-a-Lot supposedly kept adding like hairs to his mustache and to his like ponytail and stuff every time he came on stage. I don't know how true that is. If it is, I would love to hear John talk about it, because I just thought he looked super fluffy by the end, and I was like, I don't know what's going on. But I thought that was a funny comment that somebody brought up on Twitter that I wanted to mention, if it is true, so that I can have it in my brain to have noticed it later on when we have the show more readily available to other people. And then my other comment was just Lauren. I was so impressed with Lauren because she is, for one, somebody who has been in like every Starkid show, I think, except one. So she is very quintessential Starkid to me. I've never met her. I've never been close to her. There was a part where she came out into the audience, and having her like this close to me, like not even a foot away from me, was just a very, very surreal moment for me. And I also just loved her little Buggette voice. I'm not going to say when that voice happened, but she did use her Buggette voice from Starship, which I thought was so cute and so cool for me to see live as somebody who remembers when Starship came out, because it was just a big full circle moment for me. And that is all of the spoilers I'm going to put a no more spoilers moment here, but I am, again, so grateful to have seen the show. I wish there was more Starkid content for me to make. I might find a way to integrate that more into my channel, because that is something I'm very, very passionate about alongside books. Obviously, most of what I do is talk about books, but I've always wanted to talk about Starkid more on my channel. I've literally shown my Wiggly doll on screen before, like, many times, just as a prop and stuff, but I just wanted to document my experience and my thoughts. And I might do an updated one of this when the digital ticket comes out. That might be an easy way for me to do an update for it, but I'm so grateful to have been able to go see the show. And if for some reason anybody from Starkid happens to see this, I am so grateful for how accessible you make theater to other people. And being able to witness and watch all of your talents grow over the last 15 years has truly been just a complete honor. And I hope that you guys keep doing what you're doing and keep doing what you love, and that we keep allowing it to be available and supporting you guys so that you're able to do this. And I'm so grateful for the fandom that you have cultivated to be able to help you guys see your dreams and be able to do these shows and to be able to make them happen. I was blown away. It was a dream come true to be able to see the show live. I can't wait for the digital ticket. I can't wait to see all of the zoomed in close-ups and the way that they choose to film it for YouTube. I think it's going to be incredible. And I'm so excited to see more to come. I've never been this early to their stuff. Like, the earliest I've ever been is digital tickets. So being able to see it like the day after opening night and this early to be able to make comments on the story and the fandom and the world, very exciting as such a long time fan. But if you made it this far, please leave all of the colors for the Lords in Black in the hearts below. I think that would be fun. If you don't have any other comment, please leave the Lords in Black colors, which, if you are a new fan and you don't know this off the top of your head, it is green, pink, yellow, blue, and purple. Yes, purple. I am a fake fan. Just leave those hearts in the comments below. Thank you all for watching. If you do want to hear me rave and rant more about Starkid, this is both my Twitter and my Instagram handle. You can follow me there. But thank you all for watching. Thank you to Starkid for doing what you do. And I will see all of you guys next time.